It's a pleasure to be back into having these conversations, and thank you for continuing to support and engage with us in our content and also recommending additional topics that we can discuss. So for today, I'm going to talk about the World Economic Forum, which is an annual convening that is hosted actually in Davos in Switzerland. It's an interesting an interesting platform and a forum, and it's something that I'm passionate about. And I love the model of work that they've been doing. I've been following up the work of Klaus Schwab for a couple of years now. And also it's some of the motivation behind the work that I do with African Pharmaceutical Network, because I believe when we can bring different stakeholders from different walks of life and different sectors of the ecosystem, then we're able to have a conversation that shapes the future that we desire, the future that we hope for. And most importantly, it gives us the ability to now break on the barriers that we might be having, let's say, for example, from the government to the private sector, to the civil society and the social groups. When we're able to break those barriers, we're able to work together and shape the future of our conversations and actually get ways of working collaboratively to address problems in our ecosystem. And that is what I'm hoping we can do together as society, and what we can do to ensure that we have a prosperous future for all of us, where inequalities are addressed, problems are solved for, but most importantly, we're able to progress as the human race together. So when I'm looking at it in terms of reflections from the World Economic Forum, we know that Davos 2024 happened from 15th to 19th of January. And that conversation had more than 3,000 delegates participating. And those 3,000 delegates were from the private sector, from the civil society group, and from governments, heads of states and ministers all over the world. In that conversation, the key focus and the key theme was rebuilding trust. Why is rebuilding trust important for us? It is important because I remember last year I had some conversation with some peers and seniors in the industry, and some of the key challenges, especially in the caucuses, were how do we make people trust us? How do we make people believe in what we are doing as a society in the different spaces where we are as leaders, or in other case, technical experts in whatever it is that we are doing? Trust is a currency that cannot be bought, but trust is the driving force, is the engine that makes us be able to achieve our goals or fail to achieve those goals. So the question is, how do we earn trust? How do we build trust with the communities that we engage with the people that we serve, and how do we ensure that that trust helps us move the wheel of development to ensure that we're able to achieve our aspirations? It's a critical conversation, and it's a critical thing that we need to know. All over the world, with geopolitical tensions and geopolitical challenges that we're all dealing with, there is mistrust. Societies are not trusting governments, and that is why you'll find that people are not even participating in elections. Look at the election turnout in most of our countries. It has been going down progressively, consistently. It's been going down. That is a problem. When COVID came, the biopharmaceutical industry worked hard tirelessly to ensure that we had innovative technologies and tools available for us to be able to deliver interventions. These were in the form of vaccines, therapeutics, and new medicines that were coming up. A lot of that work came in. The regulators also collaboratively engaged with the industry to ensure that the review timelines were expedited. The research timelines and the research requirements were actually made more efficient, and by the virtue that we have technological tools that could aggregate that was happening more effectively and more robustly. But at the same time, within the same period, there was a lot of misinformation and disinformation, which was making it very difficult for the biopharmaceutical industry to convince people to take up the technologies that were being developed. So if these people already know the potential of science and they've been using medicines over a period of time, why is it that when we have a crisis, when we are at the point where we need the most to trust us, we need the most to use these technologies, they're not willing to take them up? There is a mistrust, and that mistrust has to be addressed. We have charitable organizations, we have social movements and groups that are coming in terms of non-profits, NGOs and all that. They're doing amazing work. For example, in the Kenyan context, I would not downplay the role of the Kenya Red Cross. They've been doing amazing work. They've been supporting us in every different space. Multilateral agencies, United Nations, WHO in the healthcare space, they're doing amazing work. But when you see people having to start questioning such kind of organizations, there is something that is going amiss. And why is that the case? It's because some of these organizations, the much they're doing to us, they're helping us to solve problems. There's that gap between the beneficiaries and the people offering the help. And that is the missing link that I feel. For us to rebuild trust with the society, we have to be transparent enough, we have to be more open and more conversational. And we also have to understand that we don't have all the answers, but we are willing to listen and engage, because for those solutions to be delivered, we need people who are willing to listen to them, willing to get the solutions that actually work with us to ensure they are sustainable. And that is why when you design a solution, you're talking about human-centered design and collaborating with communities for sustainability. That is a critical piece that we cannot miss. And over time, it's something that we've been missing. And we have to look into it again and again and again. And why is it becoming a critical issue at this particular moment in time? It is because in the conventional way, our leaders are still governing us and making decisions based on the, I would say, archaic approaches where people did not have access to information. And therefore, with no information, whatever you were told is what the leaders were dispensing to us, and that is what we consumed as the gospel truth. We're in an era where technology has made it easier for me in Nairobi, Kenya to access information of what is happening in the United States of America 2 minutes ago, 1 minute ago, or actually in real time for the live streaming sessions. So then it means if anybody tries to tell me something that is contrary to information that I've already received, they need to validate it. They need to give me a reason to believe in whatever they're saying, to be convinced that they're actually meaning right for me. If they are not able to bridge that barrier to actually convince me, then that is a lost cause. That is where we have distrust, and with distrust, there's no intervention that can work, because when governments are putting up regulatory framework, governing instruments and all that, nobody will support them. And when you're not supporting, we are not meeting our goals. The private sector, when they're designing interventions coming to work with people, people vote for the solutions that are coming from the private sector by uptake of these services. When they're not consuming them, we are all losing. Is that what we want? I don't think so. So there's work for us to rebuild that trust and see how we're engaging with the community. In the pharmaceutical industry, because that is where I operate and that is where I make my bread and butter, but at the same time, it's where I believe I have the greatest opportunity to make an impact. How do we rebuild trust? We have to rebuild trust by showing patients that actually we care about them, but we also have to be honest enough to say, for us to be able to innovate for a COVID vaccine, there is need for money. And that money comes in terms of the people who are buying it, whether it's the multilateral agencies, whether it's the patient paying for the medicines or the insurance company that keeps paying for it. They have to see that it is value for money for them to get the solution, but it's also a business to ensure that we're able to innovate continuously and consistently. I think from the healthcare space, we've failed the society, and that is where some of this distrust is coming in. We make it look like we are doing charity work. It is charitable work and social impact work, but it's not charity in the sense that there is need for money. And that need for money comes from us being able to develop solutions and interventions that serve people. And as it's serving people, it's also able to get us the profitability to be able to pay the people working in the pharma companies, to pay the investors actually to get them the shares earning interest so that they see the value of them investing the additional money, but also to ensure that we're able to raise more money to research in the next technologies, the next innovations that will solve some of the problems that are coming up that we don't even know. Those are things that we have to be open about. And if we keep coming to people and saying it is all for the social cause, for the impact that it does, we are missing a point, because the public knows there is profitability. There's no way we can say we are doing this for the social impact, but at the same time, on a quarterly basis, we have financial reports to shareholders reports that are showing profitability margins. Where do we have that disconnect, and where do we merge the balance? That has to be clear, and we have to be open to the society as it is, and that is going to be the game changer for us in rebuilding trust with societies. So from the World Economic Forum, what were the key conversations around rebuilding trust, but with a focus on 4 key pillars? 1, we all have to acknowledge we have geopolitical tensions across the world. With geopolitical tensions, we have fights all over the world, we have civil coups and all that. These need to be addressed. And if it's only going to be addressed, then governments have to be responsive to people, but we also have to move away from being so woke that we want to talk of a narrative that supports the conventional wisdom that everybody wants to go by. We have to listen to both sides of the divide, and we have to ask ourselves, what is the moral compass, what is socially acceptable, and what does values and ethical practices call for? We cannot let go of a human life for the sake of being correct. If somebody is killed, whether it's from a victim or the perpetrators of the offense, it's still a human life. So humanity has to be at the core of it. And geopolitical tensions can only be toned down and can only be evened out when we engage and we commit to solve for these problems. That is going to be a critical driver for our movement forward. On the other end, beyond the geopolitical tensions and all that, there was a conversation on the economy. Economies thrive when governments have regulations that are supporting the ecosystem, but also the private sector have capital to be able to invest in production, and that production, then the public has the money to purchase these services. Flow of capital in the ecosystem, flow of money. That is dependent on trust. I can only buy the camera that I'm using to record this video because I believe in its value and I have the money within me. If I don't have that, that will not happen. But I also need to trust the company that sells the camera to me, that it has the right value. So that trust is there, but also we need to shape the economies. And that confidence of the stakeholders in the government investing for them is going to determine whether we support the government or whether we don't support the government. Whether we are able to continue investing in a country or not investing in a country. All over the world we have tensions. We have challenges with economic downfall, depression and all that. There is hope for 2024. But that hope is only predicated on the fact that governments will make the right decisions, people will have money to spend, and the economy will grow. And then the most current and the most emerging trend that were discussed was around artificial intelligence. And I think this is going to be the game changer for all of us. But as much as it's coming for us as young professionals, we need to ask ourselves, what is the possibility of artificial intelligence? What skills do we need to play in that domain? But also, what solutions are we going to take to the future as a result of artificial intelligence? And how are we going to play the card? It's not in black and white, but there is a future that's coming there. There's a lot of investment and there's need for us to work into those solutions. The last thing, climate change. It is real. But do people trust it? Most likely not. Why? The scientists are talking science, the politicians are talking political rhetoric, but the communities that are being impacted by climate change have not actually experienced the contextualized information about what climate change means. So every intervention is piecemeal, in silos, and we're never going to achieve our results. And the distrust makes it even more challenging for us to intervene in addressing climate change. So how do we move forward? We need to build trust, we need to be transparent, we need to be honest. And for me, this kind of a platform is what we need to be able to agree together to say, we are going to solve for this problem. And we're not going to solve for it because we have been told to, but because we see the need. We understand the needs of our communities, we bring stakeholders from different walks of life, and we're able to walk the journey together. If you enjoy the conversation, my call to you is subscribe to the channel. We have only 21% of our viewers subscribing to the channel. It's your patronage that helps us grow and helps us believe in the work we're doing. And I'm calling on you, please subscribe and let's build the channel together. Then subsequently, if you find this information is critical for somebody in your domain, please share this information with them. Let's walk the journey together. Let's shape it forward. Thank you and have a good one.